Patrol! Dad Patrol. Episode 8. Because we're only getting 9 episodes of Doom Patrol this season. So, this episode starts, and I just want to start by saying, I said from day one, Miranda was not to be trusted. I was right. So let's get it right into it. So again, the episode starts with we're going down memory lane, and the girl Kay, she aka the actual aka young Jane, Kay, they show us some situations with her and her father, where her dad was abusing her, treating her like shit, and her dad, just to punish her, would take her, put her in a well, and lower her and just have her sit in a bucket in a well for like hours just to teach her a lesson. Over the course of time, I'm going to assume that this happened periodically throughout time. So so when we first see Kay, like she's a little girl, and then later on we see a flashback where she's older. She's probably maybe like 13 or 14 or whatever. I don't know if it's her superpower or the girl just developed like schizophrenia to the point where she developed like dual personalities, but that's how Miranda was born, because Kay was the little girl who was afraid of her father, who was being thrown down the well, who was being treated like shit, and then this Miranda persona was created to protect her. And again, I don't know if it was just like a split personality that she created, that she created to protect herself, or there's actual like some magical metahuman mumbo jumbo. So so now we're in the underground. Jane's in the underground. She's talking to all the girls, and she's just like, listen, Charlotte Harlot or Scarlet Harlot and the fire chick, she was just like, listen, she was like, they disappeared. Somebody else, like a couple of people's stations are closed, and this is kind of weird, but it's not a coincidence, because once Miranda came around, now all of a sudden people disappearing. And then Miranda shows up, and she's just like, oh, so I suppose Baby Doll and the fire and Katie Pyro or whatever her name is, she's just like, oh, I didn't know that they were my fault. And she was just like, no, the two of them died. Something happened, an unfortunate situation happened, and the two of them died. But Scarlet Harlot and the other chick, they just flat out disappeared. And there's no explanation of why they disappeared. And then Miranda was like, well, they disappeared because they've moved on. And I'm like, moved on? Because I was like, first of all, you can't move on from the underground. Unless like Kay, I guess, decides that you're no longer, like, unless I don't know how it works. I don't know if it's like chemical, I don't know if it's mental, whatever. But basically, like, these broads just can't disappear. They just can't move on like that. Miranda's whole thing is she was just like, oh, the reason why they moved on is because the girl is healing. She's getting better. And because Kay's getting better, Miranda was like, we no longer have the need for a harlot and whatever the other person was. So, and it's like I said before, and then, Jane kind of like caught on to the whole thing. Basically what's happening is Miranda is back because Miranda was the original persona. She was the original girl who was there to protect Kay. Miranda's whole thing is like, this is my ish. I know what's best for Kay. I've been dealing with this whole situation since the beginning before anyone else was. I know what's best for Kay, and I'm not going to allow you broads to muck this whole thing up. So anybody that Miranda feels isn't worthy to be a part of the underground, she's going to start removing them, she's going to start removing them one by one. So then the actual Kay shows up, and then, she tells Jane that she wants her doll, her stuffed animal, because when she was a kid, she had a stuffed animal, and when her dad had put her in the well, she accidentally dropped it, and the stuffed animal fell into the water. Miranda then told Kay, she was just like, oh, it's best that we leave those playthings in the past. Because Miranda's whole thing is she's just like, yo, enough with the kid shit. It's time to be grown up. It's time to be adults. So she's trying to get Kay to, to leave the childish stuff behind. And then Jane was just like, first of all, as primary, for all of us, we're supposed to do what's best for the girl. And what the girl wants, she wants the damn stuffed animal. And Jane's like, since I'm still primary, I'm gonna go get the goddamn stuffed animal. So they were just like, so then Jane was like, where's the stuffed animal? And then it's like, oh, it's at the well. And then she's like, the well in the underground? And they were like, no, the well in real life, where father, would torment us. So Jane's like, ah, shit. And she has to go back, to the past. She has to go back, to the horror show, to where she grew up, where Kay grew up. And now she's going to try to retrieve the stuffed animal. She ends up getting Larry to help her because Cliff was busy doing other things. She gets Larry out of bed. Larry throws his bandages on. The two of them go down to the well. Kay, like Larry, she ties the harness around. Like Larry lowers Jane into the well. Jane's looking for the stuffed animal. She can't find it, but then she sees like a brick that was movable, and she takes the brick and she removes the brick from the situation. She finds the stuffed animal, but she also finds a letter that Miranda wrote to her father, to Kay's father, because she was like, if you ever find this letter, just know that you ain't shit. We don't need you. And then Miranda's whole thing was, she was just like, I know what's best for Kay, and I'll take care of Kay from now on. And then we saw flashbacks of when Miranda took over, how Kay left the well and she got away from the dad. So Jane read the letter, and then she kind of felt bad, because that's when Jane like realized, like, damn, like Miranda was doing this thing since the beginning. Miranda was the original person who felt all the torture and who lived through all the torture and the abuse that Kay had to go through. She was the first persona who rescued Kay and got her away from her father. So then Jane kind of felt bad, and then she went back to the underground and she spoke to Miranda, and then she was just like, listen, I didn't realize everything that you had to go through as far as like protecting the girl. And she was like, you're a very strong person. I apologize for giving you a hard time. And she's just like, listen, I'll listen to you from now on. So whatever you feel like you need to do, she was just like, I'll fall in line and I'll follow your your path. And then Miranda was like, all right, cool, bitch. And then she took the stuffed animal, chucked that shit right back down the well. And then Jane was just like, well, what's going on? I thought we were, because she told her, she was like, you should be the one to give the stuffed animal to Kay. But Miranda's at a point where she's like, I'm done with the child stuff. Like, she was just like, Kay's not a girl anymore. She's an adult. So, so she, and again, and anyone who doesn't fit Miranda's mold of what Kay needs to grow up and to get rid of like the childhood trauma, she's kicking those people to the curb. So she took Jane and she pushed Jane down the well. Jane fell into the well, and while Jane was in the well, she saw the dead bodies of all the girls who disappeared, who Miranda lied and said had moved on. They did not move on. Miranda killed them and threw them bitches in the well, just like I said. So Jane's not dead. Jane's gonna get herself out of the well, and then when Jane gets herself out of the well, her and Miranda are going to have a final showdown. And like I said, it's going to end with Jane throwing Miranda's ass back down the well anyway. So so that was it. That was it for the Jane portion of the episode. So Miranda's in charge now, and she's about to assuming because she thinks Jane's dead, Miranda's back in charge, and she's about to take over as primary and bust some ass. Cliff, remember his daughter had came to the mansion. Him and his daughter had a conversation. Cliff and his daughter got to know each other again. She told him that she was getting married. She's a lesbian. She's marrying a woman, but she also got pregnant. I assume artificial insemination. Her and Cliff bonded, and before the daughter went back home, she invited Cliff to her wedding, and Cliff was very excited because him and his daughter finally made a connection. And I feel like Cliff is gonna miss the wedding, but I'll get to why later. Cyborg and now Cyborg, he was basically like at the mansion. He's still waiting for Niles, because remember, Niles hasn't come back to the mansion since he killed Cliff and shot him into outer space, and Niles doesn't know that Cliff is back on Earth. So Cyborg's still waiting for Niles to show up, and then here comes Rita Farr, and then she's just like, oh, look at me, like, because remember in the previous episode, she dressed up in the bee costume and she saved that kid. So she was, and it was in the newspaper. She was like, look, Cyborg, the beekeeper saves a local man. And then Cyborg was like, you're the beekeeper? She's like, I'm the beekeeper, which was very hilarious. And then, Cyborg was just like, he was teasing her about the whole superhero thing. He's like, yo, what do you really want to get at? It's like, what are you trying to do? Are you serious about being a superhero or not? And then, and then Vic accidentally, he looked at the newspaper, and then he saw that a scientist had got murdered. The scientist who got murdered was one of the scientists who performed all those experiments on Ronnie that gave her all her upgrades. So when Vic saw that, he was just like, yo, something's wrong, and he went to go investigate. And then Rita was like, well, I'll come with you, so, because she's trying to shadow him to be a superhero. They go down to the crime scene. She shows up, like, Vic basically just shows up in his usual sweatpants and the hoodie. Rita shows up in the beekeeper costume, and then Cyborg's just like, you don't need the costume. And then she was like, are we on patrol, or are we on patrol? And I'm like, I love Rita. I love Rita. So, so Cyborg's talking to the cops. They give him the information, and then they end up telling him that they have Ronnie's picture going into the scientist's home before he got murdered. So Cyborg leaves, and then he just goes after Ronnie. Rita doesn't realize, she's like talking to the cops like, so what do we got? And then she realized Cyborg left, and then she went to go find him. So Cyborg goes down to the hoagie shop or whatever. Ronnie's there by herself. I don't know why nobody else was working at at the hoagie shop, but Cyborg goes down there. It's just him and Ronnie. They're having a conversation, and then Cyborg's like, "Tell me why you did it." Ronnie's just like, "Well, you know, I was dying, and thanks to the Uma jelly, because remember she stole the Uma jelly from the pink bug things." And then Cyborg was like, "I don't give a damn about no Uma jelly." He was just like, "Why did you murder this person?" And then she was like, "Oh, because he was a bad person." And because she took the Uma jelly, she now has magic powers. She has superpowers now, and she's no longer dying. I guess she has like increased strength. I don't know the extent of her power. I remember the queen, the queen pink bug thing. She was able to fly, but from what it looks like, Ronnie so far has super strength. So she's talking to Cyborg, and she says, like, "Listen, those people deserve to die because of what they did to me." But he was just like, "Okay, but how many more people deserve to die with your brand of justice?" And then she's like, "Well, I'm going to do what's necessary. I'm not going to stop." And then he's just like, "Well, I can't let you do that, and I got to stop you." So the two of them get into a fight. She throws Cyborg across the room. She gets on top of him and starts punching him in the face. And then he busts out the arm cannon. He put the arm cannon like right in her dome. And then he was just like, "Yo, bitch, don't make me have to blast you." And then she kind of like paused for a second. And then she looked at him like, "I can't believe you were about to blow my head off." And I'm like, "You were just punching me in the face." Like, you threw me across the room and you were just punching me in the face. And it's like, I'm wrong now because I was about to blow your head up. I'm like, nah. So then, like, so she started, but of course Cyborg wasn't going to do it because he likes her. So he stayed on the floor, like in shock. She starts crying. Ronnie starts crying, and she gets up and she leaves. When Ronnie opens the door, Rita's standing there in the bee outfit with her hands on her hips, and Ronnie just looked at her like, "Bitch, you ain't gonna do shit." And then she just walked by Rita, like shouldered her on the way out. And I'm just like, Rita froze in the moment. Like, this was her moment. Like, Rita could have fought Ronnie. She could have detained Ronnie. Like, Cyborg and Rita together, they could have stopped Ronnie, but Rita froze in the moment. And now in the next episode, now she's going to be like, "Oh, I don't have what it takes because I'm a coward," and this, that, and the third. And then she got to deal with that whole full. But I am very surprised that Rita, she bitched up in the moment, because I figured she'd at least try to stop her. And then maybe Ronnie like beat her up, and then Rita was just like, "Oh, I don't have what it takes." But I'm like, you just flat out froze. So that was it with their whole thing. And both Rita and Cyborg got some issues that they got to work out, which I don't think are going to get resolved until season 3. And then finally, the chief, he basically took his daughter to the carnival because they were having daddy-daughter day, because, remember, he told Bootleg Constantine to kill her. Dorothy goes into, like, he gives her money to go into a store. Something happened. She had blood on her. I forgot how she got the blood. She was, other people were in the store, were just, like, looking at her. And they were like, "Oh, why does that kid look weird, mommy?" Whatever. And then she kind of felt back, and she's like, "Oh, I'm a freak." She goes in the bathroom, and she starts crying. The woman who worked at the store, at the convenience store, went to the bathroom to see if she was okay. And because I guess she saw the blood that was on her or whatever, and because like she was in the bathroom crying, the woman assumed that her menstrual cycle began. And then she told her, she was just like, "Oh, your menstrual cycle, it happens to everybody. Don't be afraid. Yes, it's going to be painful, but it's all a part of growing up." And then, Dorothy was like, "Wait a minute." She's like, "Do you mean I'm growing up?" And then she's like, "Yeah, you're becoming an adult." She was like, "I'm an adult now." And then I was just like, "Oh, shit." Because the whole thing, the evil fire identity, all he wanted was, like, the whole fire demon thing. He just wanted Dorothy to grow up. He wanted Dorothy to grow up. And now in her mind, because she got tricked into thinking she got a period, now Dorothy thinks she's growing up, and she can't hold this creature back any longer. He's about to bust out. So while they're at the carnival, she keeps seeing him. She keeps seeing this black woman, that's trying to like tell her to let go, child, let the beast in, let the demon in. So Dorothy's like freaking out the whole time she's at the carnival. Bootleg Constantine shows up. He's talking to Niles, and he's like, "While you were busy playing Bloody Dad of the Year, the beast is about to strike." And then he's like, "There's nothing we can do," because the carnival started melting like candy machines, like everything just started melting. And then the demon even spoke to Dorothy, and then he was just like, "You can't hold me back any longer, bitch. I'm about to strike." And now everything's about to go dark, and the evil spirit, that Dorothy was trying to contain, he's about to bust out, and he's about to wreak havoc all over the entire carnival and eventually the world. And from what I saw in the coming attractions for next week's season finale, it's up to the Doom Patrol to try to stop them. So, which means, and it's weird because every single character, I guess with the exception of Larry, every single character has an unresolved storyline in Dad Patrol, and now we're all supposed just to come together as one to fight Dorothy's demon in the season finale. So basically, everybody's storyline is about to get put on hold until season 3. Vic and Ronnie aren't gonna settle their differences until season 3. Rita's not gonna truly address her her superheroism and her freezing up. She's not gonna. She might. She might get over the fear aspect of it in the season finale, but in season 3 she's gonna go full blown superhero. And Cliff's probably gonna miss his daughter's wedding because of the Dorothy situation, and then he's gonna spend next season trying to make amends for that. I don't know what's going on with Niles. I don't know what's going to happen with Dorothy, but it's pretty interesting. Like and even with Jane, because is Jane and Miranda going to settle their differences in the season finale, or is the Jane Miranda situation going to filter over into season 3? Does Miranda end up concluding the season finale with the Doom Patrol next week? So that was it. Those are, as I said, those are my thoughts. Leave a comment, let me know what you think is going to happen in the season finale. Let me know what you think is going to happen with Jane and with the other characters. Do these characters' storylines get resolved in the final episode, or do all of them get stretched out until next season? But one thing is for sure, if Jane confronts Miranda in next week's final episode, Miranda's ass is going back down the well. So thank you for tuning in. That was Dad Patrol, episode 8, season finale next week. Leave a comment, like, and or subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you can get my Stargirl and my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. videos, because those are almost over as well. We got maybe 1 or 2 more episodes. So Doom Patrol should end first, then Stargirl, then S.H.I.E.L.D., and then we'll close up this first year of me doing superhero TV reviews, and we'll start a new season of me doing superhero TV reviews when Titans begins. So thank you for tuning in for the Doom Patrol, for Dad Patrol. For next time, as always, guys, take care, and I'm out this bitch!